Hi there, welcome to the channel, welcome back if you're a return viewer. You're watching the Christchurch Review of Books, and I'm Kerry. Today, the third book in a recent crime thriller series set right here in New Zealand, and that book is Carved in Blood by Michael Bennett. It's the third in the series, which follows the adventures or misadventures of police officer Hana Westerman, who in the first book, Better the Blood, there we go, was a police detective. In the second book, she had, there we go, Return to Blood. She had resigned as a police officer and was kind of doing everything as a well-intentioned civilian. In this third book, Carved in Blood, she makes a return of sorts to the police, which is something I welcome, because I thought that was it was very contrived, the second book, having her running around investigating everybody with absolutely no status to do so. Well, of course, she was helping her former ex-police colleague, Sebastian, who was a private investigator, but it seemed a little odd. So it's good to see her back in the police, but really, I have to say that the activity takes place with the police in this book are pretty limited. She attends some briefings and takes a few actions which probably require her to be a police officer, but it's really kind of slight. I enjoyed the first book, and it had a kind of like a didactic point to it that was teaching you people around the world, maybe, and probably people at home, about the Maori culture, the Maori atrocities committed against them by the colonials. In the first book, just to recap, a Maori academic was taking revenge on the descendants of British colonial soldiers who had murdered a chief and harassed his people in the 19th century. And that was really great, because it taught you things, and people overseas who don't know any of this stuff would have learnt a lot, and there were footnotes and explanations and what have you. And this was kind of strapped onto a crime thriller framework, so it kept you interested. It was a little cop TV movie type thing at times. You know, there's some action scenes which are a bit dodgy, but overall I thought it was an enjoyable book. The second book in the series, Return to Blood, was a bit of a disappointment for me. It kind of carried on with the characters, but kind of lost its way somewhere that everything had to be connected to Hannah's family, and one thing that really bugged me is that the antagonist, the bad guy, and it was made great pains to tell him that show us that he was mentally ill, and somehow his mental illness was the cause of all crime and violence or something, and that kind of didn't sit well with me, and I felt the whole thing was a little contrived, a little hokey. Now, on to the third book. Basic plot is Hannah's daughter Addison, who is a shaven-haired political activist who's becoming a successful musician, and her non-binary partner, a person that goes by the name of Plus One. They've decided to get engaged to be married, and they want the celebration to take place during the Matariki ceremonies. Now, Matariki, I guess to put simply, is the Maori New Year. Celebrates the first sighting of the constellation Matariki, which elsewhere we call the Pleiades. It has great significance in Maori culture, and that's some of which is discussed in the book. But I am disappointed that the actual Matariki celebrations didn't really play a great deal of part of the book. It's just kind of like a backdrop. Matariki is coming, so these things are happening. And at the end we get the Matariki celebration after the resolved or unresolved nature of the crime, the case in question. Sorry, blabbering here. So anyway, and Hannah's ex-husband Jay, who is the father of Addison, decides to go buy champagne for the happy couple, walks into a bottle store or a liquor store, or whatever you call it in your country, and basically appears to get caught up in a robbery and is shot twice. And most of the book here is lying unconscious in hospital, and of course this leads to Hannah wanting to get back on the police force to help with the case, to find out who shot her ex-husband Jay. And in the meantime, Jay also has his new wife Marissa and some young daughters who are all distraught. Hannah and Jay's daughter Addison, of course, is distraught. Everyone who knows him is distraught. Her father, Iru, who was introduced in the second book, is an interesting character. I'm not sure that he's used greatly. Eru has also started a new relationship with a woman in the small town of Tata Bay where he lives and Hana is from. So it's getting a bit soap opera-y. Meanwhile, Stan, who was Hannah's police partner in the first book, is going through some dark times now. In the first book, spoilers, he was a victim of a car bomb and lost a leg. In the third book, he's trying to train to pass a police obstacle course physical fitness test, which apparently you have to complete under 2 minutes to get your badge back, basically. So he's currently stuck on desk duty and he wants to get back out on the streets. And of course, this desire to be better, to train, to pass the test, leads him into some seriously dark places, which are kind of like a side plot of the book. Okay, the things I didn't like about it: Hannah's family is at the forefront again. I mean, they're interesting characters, and it's good that she's got this family to rely on and to care about. I don't have any problem with that, but Hannah's family are getting directly involved in investigating the crimes, and it's a bit ridiculous. Her daughter teams up with +1 and Stan, and they're going door to door with absolutely little authority or whatever to talk to people. Her father gets a little wrapped up in it. You know, people, he needs to divorce Hannah's family from the direct frontline crime fighting thing, I think, to make it more realistic or believable, but maybe that's just me. There's also another fairly unbelievable character in this book. They introduce a female detective who's kind of like leading the investigation into Hannah's husband Jay's shooting, and she has the black background of being a soldier in the SAS, that's like the special forces who fought in Afghanistan. I'm not sure that there are any female Polynesian members of the SAS. I'm welcome to be corrected, but it just felt a little weird, tokenistic. I'm not sure what the author was trying to do there. And she's a bit of a cipher of a character, kind of brave, clever, what have you. And this is the type of thing that's letting this series down. I like Hannah's character, like her background, her Maori culture, the contrast and the tensions that gives to her. And I like the investigation of New Zealand society, modern New Zealand society. It's not all green hills, lambs and Kias and what have you that you might think of if you watch YouTube or tourist videos. There's a seedy underside here. There's crime, there's violence, there's historical injustices, there's a lot of poverty. And these books don't flinch from showing that, which is good. But I think I'd like these characters in a more regular type of cases. Every time we rejoin these characters, it's a life or death thing, and Hannah's family is directly involved, and I just wish it would step back and give her a case where she doesn't have a personal stake in it. But maybe that's what this author is all about. I don't know. One of the other things I didn't like, well, just I think the police procedures are a little dodgy. There's some very weird things going on with the police in this book. I won't elaborate more. You'll probably find them out if you read them. And I don't know. The good things was I was getting about halfway through this book and I thought it was going to be a repeat of the second book, which I didn't like. The cliches were coming thick and fast, and the main antagonist was introduced in these kind of like first-person chapters, which led you to believe that he was going to be just another mentally ill, violent criminal. But the second half of the book, the author actually pulls something sophisticated off. That things don't actually go as you expected. Things turn out different. There's a bit of a rug pull. The first-person discussion character turns out to be a character that was already introduced, who's been living like a secret life with his feelings and thoughts and actions, and that was very clever. I enjoyed that, and also led to an ending which wasn't tied up in a bow nice and tidily. So it basically left us for a future reappearance of such characters in the series, if the series does go on. Of course, the author couldn't resist killing off a character, which I won't say which one, but it's probably pretty obvious due to the setup of the story. Yeah, he puts the characters for a bit of a ring, and I'm not sure it was entirely necessary. I'd just like to see these characters on like an episodic, maybe TV series. I know the book had its kind of, the series has its origin in a television idea. I'd like to see these people, these characters, the police ones anyway, and Hana, investigating normal crimes in the city of Auckland where they are, not some existential crisis every time. But anyway, having said that, I enjoyed this book more than the second one. It is a return to form. Hana is a good character. We see things through her eyes, and her family connections and her culture kind of make it better, more depth to the story. But like I said earlier, her family can't really be involved in every single crime that takes place that she investigates. I mean, that just gets ridiculous. But maybe that's the kind of crime thriller come soap opera thing that some readers expect. Anyway, in the end, I enjoyed it. I will read more of these if they come out. It looks like they're being set up for more. There are some unfinished business in these books, and I'd like to see some of the characters, what they go on to next. We could rest some of these characters, some of the family members, and still have a successful story. So anyway, that is my thoughts on Carved in Blood, the third Hana Westerman crime thriller by Michael Bennett. Probably available worldwide pretty soon, if not already. It came out in New Zealand in April. I know these do go overseas quite a bit. So anyway, that is Carved in Blood. Okay, so that is my review. It is the 2nd day of June 2025 here in winter. Here we are. It's still looking very autumny outside, not too many icy days yet. I think this will be the last video for a couple of weeks. I've got a couple of books on the go, well, 4. I'm reading the second Bookshop Detective story, Tea, Cake and Death, which is kind of like an extreme opposite of this. It's set in New Zealand, but it's a kind of what's become known as cozy crime, and mixes the fun topics of bookshops and murder. And beyond that, I've started reading 3 or 4 books on the Kindle. I think I mentioned that in the recent book haul. So that will be the last you'll see of me for a couple of weeks, I expect. So I'm wishing you well, and we'll see you next time.